Shadowlands is one of World of Warcraft's most ambitious expansions. There are times where I feel overwhelmed by all of its complex interlocking progression systems. When I'm not chipping away at expanding my Covenant Sanctum, which is basically just my superhero HQ, I'm exploring its dark and dangerous new endgame zone, or climbing the endless floors of Torghast, Shadowlands' excellent dungeon that's basically just a self-contained roguelike. And then there's the familiar grind of world quests, dungeons, and chasing down hidden treasures like new mounts. It's a lot to stay on top of, and at times a little too familiar, but much of Shadowlands' endgame is varied and inventive enough to keep things fun. It might not win over jaded players who drifted away over the years, but Shadowlands is the best World of Warcraft has been in a long, long while. It makes some huge improvements over the previous expansion, Battle for Azeroth. There's no more infinite grind to breathlessly chase, there's no opaque armor system like Azerite armor to suck the joy out of getting that coveted loot drop from a dungeon boss, and best of all, a lot of randomness has been dialed back in favor of player choice. Instead of spending weeks praying for a specific all-powerful legendary item to drop only to get one that's useless to me, I can just farm the materials for the one I want and build it myself. It's empowering to be the one calling the shots instead of feeling so beholden to the fickle gods of randomness. This emphasis on player choice is most evident in Covenants, which are basically Hogwarts' different houses if each was a distinct afterlife where souls are sent to live for all eternity. Instead of Slytherin, you have Maldraxxus, a nightmarish hellscape of green where Necrolord armies battle in the theater of pain. Or Ardenweald, a withering cosmic forest where spirits are nurtured in ghost gardens. Once players wrap up the story and reach level 60, they'll have to choose from one of these 4 to join up with. Each one not only offers a different endgame story campaign, but 2 unique and very powerful abilities, armor sets, mounts, and even fun side activities like a soul garden to tend, or being able to host posh vampire parties. It's one of the biggest decisions I've made in WoW since choosing my race and class, and I love how much weight it carries.
Please take your place when you are ready to begin. You stand before the court of harvesters, willing and able to accept our gift.
Signing up with the Venthyr means I get Door of Shadows, which lets me teleport 35 yards, skipping past monsters or across otherwise impassable chasms. If I had signed up with the Angels of Bastion, who definitely are not as virtuous as they first appear, I'd get the ability to call on a cute little owl steward who can serve me stat-enhancing drinks or play a song or do a dozen of other tasks that benefit me in different ways. It really took me a while before I came around to liking Shadowlands, however. The story starts with a bang, but quickly settles into a leveling experience that is so on rails and devoid of any real risk that it just ends up feeling burdensome. As I ventured across each of the 4 new zones, I rarely felt challenged or excited by the tasks before me. It's a lot of going to a place, clicking on things, killing other things, and then sitting still for a minute or two while characters talked at me, before I'm whisked off to my next objective to repeat it all over.
What you speak of is unthinkable, but we must remain vigilant nonetheless.
Now, the writing itself is not the problem. I actually really liked many of the cutscenes, but events move too quickly and characters are given such little room to breathe that I never get the chance to truly know them. There's a lot of long speeches and info dumps, but little of anything that actually makes me feel emotionally invested in what's happening in the story. I'll watch a dramatic cutscene that tees up a big boss fight only to melt the sucker in 20 seconds without getting so much of a cut. It all just feels kind of monotonous. The one exception to this is the zone of Ardenweald. There is a tangible sadness to that zone, but even then, much of the emotional weight of its story is presented in an optional 6-minute animated cutscene that Blizzard released 3 months ago as marketing materials.
You saw what is to come.
Ardenweald is dying.
It honestly makes me question why I even need to level a character at this point. Back in World of Warcraft's early days, the journey was the reason. Each of those levels felt earned and gave me access to new abilities. But leveling in modern Warcraft is so brainless, it sucks the tension out of the story, making every moment where I'm forced to stop and listen to another exposition dump just a little painful. Shadowlands is so much more interesting when it takes the less is more approach, like when I discovered that a cool mount actually had a tragic backstory dating all the way back to vanilla WoW. Once I hit level 60 and wrapped up the story, I was able to spend more of my time doing things that were actually fun. And Shadowlands has a lot of fun packed into its endgame. I really love the Covenant system and how much texture it adds to my daily routine of running dungeons, knocking out world quests, and exploring. As a Venthyr, I'm chilling out in my underground vampire lair using blood mirrors to travel around the ruinous castles of Revendreth, but if I'd gone with Maldraxxus, my sanctum would be inside a colossal statue to their god, populated with festering undead monstrosities. World of Warcraft's story might fizzle more than it pops, but its world building is still cool as hell. A resource called Anima is gained from completing most endgame activities and can be spent on upgrading different parts of your Covenant headquarters, called a Sanctum. It's a much more engaging endgame system because I'm working toward unlocking new ways to play Warcraft, rather than just incremental stat upgrades. And then there's Torghast, Tower of the Damned. Easily the crowning achievement of Shadowlands, Torghast is a roguelike dungeon that changes each time you enter it. Like any good roguelike, the real joy comes from slowly acquiring ridiculous powers that warp my character into a killing machine. And there's hundreds to find, though some are restricted by class and Covenant choice. But I found powers that transformed me into a giant, made me temporarily blind in exchange for vastly increasing my damage, and even one that turned me into a tiny little rat so I could sneak past enemies. Torghast is such an amazing addition to WoW, but there are times where I can't escape the feeling that I've run this kind of marathon before. I love that Blizzard swings big on its expansions where other MMOs are happy to stick to a template, but it also makes everything feel a little inconsequential. I can bust my ass grinding my Covenant, but a player who starts playing a month from now will catch up to me with minimal effort. And when a major update comes out, those goalposts will be moved back and all that hard-earned gear will be worthless trash compared to whatever new stuff is available. It really is hard to see the value in investing tons of time into a game where everything is so fleeting. To be fair, this is a problem faced by a lot of MMOs, and unlike Battle for Azeroth, a lot of Shadowlands' new features are inherently fun enough that I want to keep playing even if I'm concerned about the bigger picture. The 4 new zones are dense with surprises and treasures, Covenants are an exciting way to customize my character, and I'm enjoying the more subtle storytelling and world building now that the main campaign is over with.
Our faith binds us all. This is the path we were chosen to walk.
Shadowlands might not be the revolution that World of Warcraft needs to see it last another 16 years, but it's a damn good expansion.